everyone, this is Darkest Hour here, and this is the first video of my short series within a series. This series will be about Savannah and the hauntings that are there, and this series in its entirety will be about haunted locations, such as Savannah or Atlanta, New Orleans, any of the cities that have big, stories about hauntings and whatnot. I'm considering doing international cities as well, and also certain specific locations. But as I said, this starts my mini-series about Savannah. There is just so much information about Savannah that I decided to make it multiple smaller videos instead of one huge long video, because honestly I don't know if I want to talk that much, and I'm sure you guys don't want to hear me talk that much. So today we're just going to talk about the general history of Savannah, as well as I'm going to tell you about the places that I will be talking about in my next few videos. I'm also planning on going to Savannah for the spring break around here with my mom. We're considering going on a ghost tour, not ghost hunt, but I think it'll be a lot of fun. So anyway, I hope that you enjoy this video. Stay tuned for the end, and you can help me choose what city I do next. So we're going to start with this general info on Savannah. Savannah is the oldest city in Georgia. It was established in 1773, so before the Revolutionary War. Georgia was actually a prison colony, specifically debtors, more minor things as far as I remember from Georgia history. It was used to send people to work off their debts so that they could become upstanding citizens. Because, I'm guessing it was because Georgia it was so wild then. In this area, there's still, especially in my area, still a lot of wild areas. Lots of woods, lots of swamp. We have swamps down in South Georgia. We have the mountains up in North Georgia. We have coastal cities. We have, very small towns, lots of farms. It's one of those places where there was a lot of chances for people to work in order to take away debt. Savannah became the British colonial capital of Georgia, and after the Revolutionary War, it became the first state capital. It was the state capital at the beginning from 1777 to 1778. Over the course of the years, it changed several times. It went back and forth from Augusta to Savannah a few times, and then it had a short time in Louisville, Milledgeville, and Macon. All different areas around there. Macon was just a place where they would meet to hold meetings. I believe that the capital was in Milledgeville at that point, and Macon was just their meeting place, if I remember correctly. Atlanta became the permanent capital in 1868. So that was relatively recently when you think about the history of the United States. Places like England and places like that, they have much longer histories than the U.S. So, our historical places are 200 years old. In the scheme of things, that's not extremely old. It's relatively recent when you think about how long the world has been here and how far back British history goes and all of that. Savannah was a strategic port in the American Revolution and in the Civil War. And it is still an important seaport today, as well as an industrial center. There is a lot of industry in Savannah. There are other towns that have a lot more industry, but Savannah has a lot more than some of the other places here in Georgia. Georgia kind of prides itself in being able to have industry, but then you go an hour down the road and you have the small town feel that you expect from the South. Savannah is Georgia's 5th largest city and the 3rd largest metropolitan area. That one's pretty self-explanatory when you think about places like Atlanta, where it's just huge. You have Athens, which again is also huge. Notable historic buildings. There are so many historic buildings in Savannah. Mainly, when you think about Georgia, there's so many buildings that were burned down during Sherman's March to the Sea, which started in Atlanta and went all the way to Savannah. They burned most of Georgia during that. But the citizens of Savannah pretty much gave up. It was like, no, you're not burning us. Do what you need to do, basically. That's why Savannah still has all these old buildings where Atlanta doesn't. Atlanta's oldest buildings mostly are post-Civil War Reconstruction era buildings. There are some buildings that survived, but most of the oldest buildings in Atlanta are Reconstruction era. Notable historic buildings there. You have the birthplace of Juliette Gordon Low. If that name sounds familiar, she's the lady who founded the Girl Scouts of America. The Georgia Historical Society, which is the oldest continually functioning historical society in the South. You have the Telfair Academy of Arts and Sciences, which is one of the South's first public museums. The First African Baptist Church, which is one of the oldest African American Baptist congregations in the United States. It's also home to the 3rd oldest synagogue in the United States. Then you also have the Central Georgia Railway Roundhouse Complex, which is the oldest standing antebellum rail facility in the United States. Savannah is also known for its prominence in film and literature. It is most well known for Midnight in the Garden of Good and Evil. If you've seen the Bird Girl of Savannah, that statue of the girl holding out her hands, that's the cover of that book. It's like the iconic picture of Savannah. Midnight in the Garden of Good and Evil is an amazing book, and I suggest it to anyone who wants a good book to read. It was first published in 1994. It was a New York Times bestseller for 216 weeks in a row, and it is still the longest standing bestseller. So that means that it has beat out everything. It remained at the top of the bestseller list for so long, nothing else can seem to catch up. It was made into a film in 1997 by Clint Eastwood, and the book is considered categorized as Southern Gothic. It is based on real events. It is sometimes called a nonfiction novel because of the way it's set up. It's set up like you would find a regular fictional novel, even though it is based on true events. This style of book was made famous by Truman Capote, who wrote In Cold Blood, which is also a very good book, and I suggest it, and Norman Mailer, who wrote The Naked and the Dead, also another very good book. Midnight in the Garden of Good and Evil is about the murder of a male prostitute by a socialite and antiques dealer named Jim Williams. This really was a true thing that happened in Savannah, and it was kind of a big deal. Now, the title has some really interesting things about it. It alludes to the voodoo notion of midnight, which is the period of time for good magic, which is between 11 p.m. and 12 a.m., and the time for evil magic, which is between the hours of 12 a.m. and 1 a.m. The Garden of Good and Evil is referencing a cemetery in South Carolina where Dr. Buzzard, who was the husband of the voodoo priestess Minerva, that's where he's buried. Now, his grave is where she performed incantations to ensure a more successful outcome for the retrial of Jim Williams. I really do suggest that book. I suggest the movie. It's really good. It just is excellent. You can't find a better book to read if you like murder and you like spooky and you like the Southern Gothic genre. Now, about these haunted places, Savannah is widely known as one of the most haunted cities in America. Savannah just seems to be, it's kind of like Georgia's New Orleans. It's mysterious, it has its mysterious charm to it. And it just seems to be where a lot of things have happened, whether good or bad. Those locations and the most well-known locations and the ones that I will be using would be the Hamilton Turner Inn, the Marshall House, 1790 Inn and Restaurant, the Pirates House, which I actually had a small experience there of my own during high school, the Kehoe Inn, Moon River Brewing Company, the Gribble House, Factors Walk, and Madison Square. I'm really, really excited to tell you all about these places. So my first video on that part, so technically my second video about Savannah, will be about the Hamilton Turner Inn and the Marshall House. I'm going to try and do them in groups. I'll get that video out soon to you guys. I really, really, really hope that you enjoy this series because I'm hoping to make this like the permanent thing on my channel. I don't see this a lot, and I want to give you guys a little bit of history and a little bit of spooky stuff to go along with it. I really, really hope you enjoy it, and for my next videos, I'm considering doing Atlanta because I already know a little bit about the hauntings in Atlanta, being a native Georgian. But y'all might get tired of hearing about everywhere around me. And I can tell you guys that I have no problem expanding outside of the South. There's a lot of places that I would like to do. So leave me a comment down below about where you think I should make my next set about after I finish Savannah. I'll write down the suggestions and I'll start doing some more research. I hope you have enjoyed this. I know that my style might be a little bit off for some of you guys because I just talk. But I feel more at ease doing that because of teaching and whatnot. So, I hope you guys have had a wonderful day and have a wonderful day tomorrow or whenever else you listen to this. Enjoy everything that there is to offer within the horror narrator community. Sweet dreams.